What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today we're going to talk about steering Ackerman. Welcome back, everybody, to, of course, the lovely Adrenaline RC YouTube channel, where today I am joined with my lovely Sparco Nitro buggy, so that way we can go over, as you guys heard in the intro, saw in the title and the thumbnail, what our Ackerman adjustments and what Ackerman is on our racing vehicles. So to knock out what Ackerman is just on the upfront, basically Ackerman is going to be the difference in angle from your inside tire. I don't know why this one is my inside. We'll just call this one the inside, and your outside tire. So now that's going to determine whether the angle of the tires is the same, whether it's different, greater or less on one side to the other. And then of course, I'll tell you guys later on what those adjustments are going to do. Just like last week, we'll start out with actually showing what the Ackerman looks like on the car, and then kind of going over the couple changes that you can make to be able to adjust Ackerman, or I guess more specifically, where those changes are made. And then of course, like I just said, at the end of the video, once we go over all of the different views of the front of the vehicle and what it looks like, I will of course go over what it actually does on the car. And as we know, because the Ackerman deals directly with the steering, it is going to, of course, directly affect the steering of the vehicle, if you couldn't figure that one out already. So without further ado, what I'm going to go ahead and do is take the camera, get that top-down view like we did last week. I'll show you guys the Ackerman position all the way in the back of the rack, all the way in the front of the rack. That way you can get the visual representation, and then we'll go ahead and tell you guys everything you need to know about tuning with Ackerman at the track. All right, so here we are with the car out in front of us, and you can see that I've currently got the link in the most forward position. So this should have the least amount of Ackerman for the way that my rack is set up. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try to center the camera on this body post here. And we're gonna go ahead and go full lock. And with it still centered, trying to get the best top-down view possible right there, you'll see that our angle from one tire to the other is going to be more similar than what you're about to see. Here's a more back view. Basically what's happening here is that with this further forward, now our linkage is actually going to push further on our outside tire. And then again, because it's on the further hole on our inside tire, because our links are the same length, this isn't going to pull nearly as hard as what you'll see when we move to this rearward hole. So we'll get one more view here from the top of our angle. I'll try to also see if maybe I can overlay this at some point, but there's our front of our steering rack mounting position. Now we've swapped out to where our links are all the way in the most rearward position. So what we'll go ahead and do is just like before, we'll go full lock here on the inside. And what you're gonna notice is that now we have quite a bit more angle on the inside tire than we do on our outside tire. Like I said, this is with the link all the way back. Now, to give an explanation as to what is happening here, now that our link is further back, our points here it'll have to pull it further, basically, meaning that you're going to get more angle, because now we have to go to a further distance compared to our front hole. And on the outside here, because we have a further distance again, but our link is the same length, this isn't going to push as hard, which means we have less angle on the outside. So that's really what we're messing with here. It's going to be the push-pull of these two links here. Now, for me personally, as I moved the position, you can see my center toe, my static toe, didn't really change a whole lot. Sometimes, depending on how dramatic of a change you make here, you may need to readjust your toe and then also readjust your steering endpoints. And then to go along with our adjustment here on the inside, this is just what I've got for our visual representation. There are different lengths of plates and positions of plates here on the outside. But of course, once we swap back over, I'll go over what those are. But just as a quick recap for where our options are, it's gonna be our rack and our plate. You can move forward and back here, or depending on what plate, you can move forward and backward, or even shorter and longer on this link itself. So that goes over our visual end of things. Let's hop back and we'll go over, of course, what all these changes do. All right, so now that we know what our Ackerman looks like on the car itself and the couple places to be able to make those adjustments, that being our steering rack up here more in the kind of like center line of the vehicle, and then of course our steering plates that are out at the uprights or the hubs, knuckles, whatever you prefer to call them. Those are gonna be the two spaces that you're going to be able to manipulate your Ackerman. So we'll start out on the rack itself. So as we come to our more further back holes, you have more Ackerman. The further forward holes, closer to the front of the vehicle, you're gonna have less Ackerman. So with the more Ackerman, with our link all the way back on the rack itself, that is going to give you more initial steering. And that's really gonna be the big change that we're messing with here, is gonna be how the steering reacts through the entire turn. So with that link in the further back position, you're gonna get more initial steering. The car is gonna feel a little bit more snappy on that initial kind of dive into the turn. What you'll notice is as you're coming out, the steering is generally going to mellow out a bit. So you're gonna have a lot in and not so much out. And then when we go to our forward positions, similar to every other change on the car, it'll yield the opposite effect. So you're gonna have a little bit less initial reaction of the car as you're going in, so it'll be a little bit easier to hang on to on that kind of first part of the turn as you're going into it. But then as you're coming out of the turn, what you're going to notice is that you're actually going to gain steering. So as the link is further back, you're going to get initial and you're going to sacrifice mid to exit. As you move the link forward, you're going to sacrifice initial, but you're going to gain steering on that mid to exit. So opposites of one another. And then the other way to also look at our links up here is going to be the angle of them. So traditionally, more Ackerman is going to be a more level with the kind of back of the arm, and then less Ackerman is going to be a sharper angle. So that's another way to look at it. Kind of threw that in a touch late, but that is another way to look at how we adjust up here at the front. So as a quick recap on our rack itself, as you move the link further back, you're gonna get more initial steering, sacrifice mid to exit. As you move it forward, closer to the front of the car, you'll sacrifice your initial, but you're gonna gain more mid to exit. Now to swap over to our plates here on the outside, as you go to a shorter plate, so you move the link closer to the wheel, the link is actually gonna physically get longer. That is traditionally going to give you a bit more initial, but again, you'll sacrifice on that kind of mid to exit area. And then as you go to a longer plate, so you move the link closer to the steering rack, usually that is going to assist in smoothing out the steering, and it will give a more mid to exit steering, comparatively speaking. But generally, the shorter plate is gonna feel more aggressive. The longer plate is going to feel less aggressive. Shorter, meaning that our link mounting location will be closer to the wheel. A longer plate, meaning that our link mounting position is going to be closer to the steering rack. Now, just like on our rack, there are some plates on C-hub cars and upright cars that you can actually move the link not only in and out, but also forward and back. So it'll be the opposite of what our rack is. Moving the link forward is going to give you more initial, and moving the link back is going to give you more mid to exit. So there's a few different ways to be able to manipulate our steering on the front of our cars, whether you want to do it at the rack or at the plate, depending on how aggressive or how numb you want the car to feel. So to recap the entirety of everything here, further back on the rack, more initial, further forward on the rack is more mid to exit. At our hub, at the steering plate, as you go to a shorter plate, moving the link mounting closer to the wheel, that is going to make the car feel a bit more reactive, a bit more initial. And as you move that link closer to the steering rack, so you're using a longer plate, that is going to smooth out the steering, and generally you'll see a little bit more of that mid to exit. As you move the link forward on our plate here, that's going to give you more initial, and as you move the link further back on the plate, that is going to give you a bit more follow through. So I hope today's video has been helpful for you guys. Steering is always going to be something that is, slightly confusing to an extent. So of course, as always, if you have any questions or you need a more written out version, definitely leave those down in the comment section below. Or if you have any requests for future videos, same thing, leave those down below. And we will see you guys next week for an all new video.